Hey, everybody, and welcome to the True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver, and I'm here with myself. uh, Poor Christy, just a little while ago, got something in her eye and cannot get it out. So Rhonda has had to take her over to community care to see if they can figure it out. So all the best to Christy and her eye that they get it figured out soon. But so she's not able to be with us tonight. So I am on my own, and that's okay because we just have a very weird day in court to discuss. Just a very weird day. So obviously, we're still on the Tellus trial for, I would guess, a few more days. Boy, the defense is woefully unprepared, aren't they? So, coming into court this morning, they basically told the judge that court has gone much faster than they anticipated, and their witnesses are by and large not even in town or ready to go, which is bananas. But it happens because, apparently the prosecution rested before they anticipated that they would. The defense has 20 people potentially on their witness list, so we'll see if they actually bring 20. I would be pretty surprised if they did. And so we started this morning with a doctor. He's a forensic psychologist, and I'm going to play you 15 minutes of his testimony. And then we took a very long break, like a 2.5 hour break, because the next witness was not there yet. And then we had a really weird, about 10-ish minutes testimony from her. And then the defense said they didn't have anybody else today, and that was about it. Then the judge did talk to the defense about the possibility of Robert Tellus being on the stand. And yeah, we are probably going to see him on the stand tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting. As you can imagine, he's very anxious to tell his side of the story. We're anxious to hear it, Robert. We're just super anxious. Yeah. Yeah, thanks you guys. I'll tell her that you said that. It's just such a freak thing. Yeah. So I was just keeping an eye on my messenger. I know that they're at community care now, so hopefully she gets a quick answer and some relief. But that's basically what happened today. So if I was a juror, I would be pissed. They have wasted so much time in this trial already. And now here we are. My gosh, they start so late. They take such long breaks. Whew. I don't know. If I was a juror, I would be frustrated. I would be very frustrated by today. Today could have been condensed into 2 hours or less, really. But they just weren't prepared. So here we are. So the first witness is a forensic psychologist named Dr. Chambers. I cut out a great deal of his the beginning because they spent about 20 minutes on his CV and on the research that he has taken a peek at. He is not a researcher himself. Basically talking about the idea that that Tellus attempted suicide is not indicative of him being guilty of a crime. That's basically the whole thing that he was here to say. So I do want to say that I don't want to diminish a suicide or suicide attempts in any way, because I would never want to re-victimize a family or somebody who's been through this at all. But basically, that's the gist of what he was here to say, is essentially that not really. Now you'll catch that at the very end, there's a question from a juror that pretty much makes the case against Tellus, but unless I guess you believe the good doctor, and I guess if you do, then maybe not. But I think that we can go ahead and watch that now. So Tubbs said she doesn't know anything about this case, but every time she sees our thumbnail about him, it cracks her up. The one where he's doing this. Yeah. Me too. It's why I used it. It's just funny. Anyway, so I'll turn you over to the good doctor. You can see what he has to say, and then we'll talk about that. And then we'll, I do have some footage of the afternoon witness as well, because that is weird AF. So here we go. This is Dr. Chambers.
Absolutely.
So just so I'm clear on your testimony, if a person attempts to commit suicide after being accused of the crime, that doesn't mean that they probably did.
It's not a reliable indicator, no.
Innocent people or people that have been exonerated of a very serious crime have attempted suicide.
Yes,
You are aware that Mr. Tellis cut his arms pretty severely in this case.
I am.
Did you have an opportunity to discuss this issue with Mr. Tellis?
I did.
Did he express to you concerns that he had at the time that he did this?
Objection, hearsay.
Was his explanation to you consistent with the studies that you have just referred to?
Objection, hearsay.
Again, you have given testimony concerning these studies where a person gets accused, and as a result of the accusation and the process, not necessarily guilt, but the accusation and the process, that person attempted suicide.
Yes,
And that attempted suicide does not necessarily mean a guilty conscience.
correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can I have some sort of overview of what you reviewed in preparation for your testimony this morning?
Certainly. I was sent the discovery from the case, which I believe included the police report, which essentially documents the investigative process that the police went through when they were assigned to this case. I think that also included some hospital records for the defendant when he was hospitalized immediately after his arrest because of the injuries to his arms. I think I saw some photos that were related to the case, and I was also provided with medical records for the defendant during his time in custody at Clark County Detention Center.
Okay. And in terms of the police reports, you mentioned that you had we call it the OR, the officer's report. Is that what you're referring to?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. How about any witness statements? Have you reviewed any of those?
I believe there were witness statements in there as well, yes.
Okay. And then did you review photographs associated with the case?
As I mentioned earlier, yes.
Video,
Don't recall seeing any video.
DNA reports?
I think I saw some DNA reports, yes.
Reports from like phone extractions, anything like that?
I think I saw a log of some phone records, so I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to.
I'm talking more like the contents of a phone.
I don't recall seeing that, but that doesn't mean I didn't.
Okay. And when was it that you were provided these materials?
It was some time ago. I was retained on this case, I believe, late last year, but I couldn't tell you the exact date.
Okay. And it sounds like you interviewed Mr. Tellis at some point.
I did.
When was that?
I actually interviewed him twice. I interviewed him earlier this year, I believe, and then I also interviewed him last Saturday.
Okay. And in either interview, did you record your conversation with him?
I did not.
Did you take notes?
I did.
Are your notes available?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well, do you still have your notes?
Yes,
Okay, so if the court ordered you to provide them, you could do that?
I could, yes.
Okay. And you understand, of course, we don't have them yet.
I haven't been asked for them, no.
Okay. And so if we made that request and the court agrees with us, you'd be able to provide it?
Certainly.
Okay. Besides Mr. Tellis, did you interview anyone else?
I did not.
How long were the interviews that you conducted with him?
The first interview was about 3 hours, I believe. And then the more recent one was maybe an hour and a half.
Okay. Did you ever administer any tests to him?
I did not.
So it was just interviews, and so you're sort of relying on his description of events.
Well, I mean, I captured his description of events.
Okay. But what he's telling you is his factual version, right?
I would assume so.
Okay. I mean, you don't ever verify that with anybody else. Is
I
that
did
fair?
have not.
Okay. And so you're kind of getting information from a single source?
Well, I'm getting information from him for the information that he has available to him.
Okay. And like you could apply, I mean, sometimes there are tests administered in order to do psychological assessments of people,
Correct.
and none of those were done
No,
on either occasion?
no.
Okay. And you're not here to tell us anything about events that occurred on December the 2nd of 2022, correct?
Well, no.
No. I mean,
Not-
you
not on
haven't,
that date. No.
you haven't been to Bronze Circle.
Council, I believe it's September 2nd. There was a question, December 2nd. think.
Oh, I thought I said
Just in the
September. I
same
apologize. I mean September, if I misspoke.
Yes. No.
I mean, you haven't been to Bronze Circle.
No.
You're not familiar with any of the evidence other than what you read in the officer's report?
Whatever I read in the police report. Yes.
Okay. Now you mentioned that, you sometimes testify like about the reliability of memory and that sort of thing. And that is sometimes used in cases where there is eyewitness testimony to be relied upon.
Yes.
And then sometimes I would assume it's to talk about like children who recall instances of sexual abuse that occurred in the past. They're challenging their memories of that.
That's right.
And so you kind of provide, I guess, context to how they might misremember things.
In some cases, yes.
Okay. And I think you said on direct examination that that going through the criminal justice system just in itself is a stressful event,
Yes, certainly.
and that correlates with the severity of the charge.
The risk of suicide correlates with the severity of the charge. Yes.
Okay. And what we're saying is, I think you said it doesn't, I think your words were not necessarily when asked if it was like the suicidality was indicative of a guilty conscience, correct?
Yes.
And so not necessarily to me means sometimes it could be.
Sure. Of
Okay.
course.
So there are sometimes people are suicidal because of feeling guilty about the crime they've committed.
I think that's almost certainly true.
Okay. Do you have any kind of information? I don't know if there are studies on that about how often that might be the case.
Well, because as I said earlier, we don't know what's going through a person's mind in most cases unless they tell us.
Right,
People that commit suicide don't usually have much to say.
right. But if
And
you
so-
attempted it, you
Right.
would.
And even when they tell us, we can't always rely on that as being accurate. So it's a very difficult question to address directly through scientific study.
Because people who have attempted suicide may be unreliable narrators about why they did things, right?
Absolutely.
And they may be self-interested when they're relaying events to you.
For sure.
And they may be motivated by sort of wanting to avoid criminal responsibility when they're talking to you.
Yes, definitely.
All those factors are always at play when you have someone charged with a crime. Would
They
that be
can
fair?
They can be.
Okay. And do you think there's a correlation of suicidality when people like in high positions in society have what's called like a fall from grace? Do you know what I mean? Being publicly embarrassed?
Yes, I think that that's probably a factor because when I talk about the stress of being accused of a crime, whether or not you did it,
Mhm.
there are a lot of factors that play into that. There's family, there's friends, there's finances, there's your employment, but also, as you said, if it's somebody who has a prominent position in society, just the public scrutiny of being accused, whether you're guilty or not, is sometimes inescapable. And we see cases of that all the time where people are accused of a crime, they're tried, they're found not guilty, but that scrutiny, that public scrutiny continues. Not everybody accepts a not guilty verdict, and so it can be very difficult to function in society afterwards.
But that public scrutiny would still exist and the embarrassment would still exist if you were guilty too, right?
Right.
And if, say, you were the subject of really negative articles that were published countywide, that would be a stressor that someone might experience as well, right?
Correct.
Being accused of inappropriate behavior in the workplace would be a stressor for somebody, right?
I would think so.
Being accused of being a bad manager would be stressful for somebody, right?
Almost certainly.
Okay. And sort of being accused of being kind of incompetent at your job would be a stressor if that was something that was like published to, say, the county.
Yes.
Okay. And those types of things cause stress on individuals that may or may not manifest as suicide, but they're troubling to individuals to experience. Is that fair?
Sure. Some more than others. It's all about personality and experience, but yes, I would think generally that's true.
And when you say some more than others, if they're someone who puts a lot of importance on their role in a particular office or status, it would be more upsetting for that type of person to have maybe negative articles written about them.
I would think so, yes.
Okay. Could I have the court's indulgence? Thank you.
Yes, just some follow-up. Based upon your testimony and your opinion, there's not really this correlation concerning more evidence against someone for a serious crime then results in a higher likelihood of suicide.
I'm sorry, could you rephrase?
Absolutely. So there was questions that you were asked concerning evidence in a particular case.
Mhm.
And are you able to say there's any correlation between, let's say, the more evidence of a person having committed a crime, that being correlated to the higher likelihood of suicide?
I think it's probably more accurate to say that it comes down to the individual's perception of his situation. So, for instance, if someone believes that they're in big trouble, that the cops have them dead to rights, whether or not they're guilty, that probably produces more stress than somebody who thinks, yeah, I can get out of this, or I'm good, or they don't have anything on me. So the objective status of that person's situation is probably less important than the subjective perception of the situation that they're in.
So again, that underscores, obviously you agree that human beings, we can be fairly complex and our behavior can be
Yeah, I
fairly
think that's
complex.
pretty obvious. Yeah.
It is. And oftentimes people think, well, if this person committed suicide, if he committed suicide, he must have committed the crime. You're here to dispel that common view.
Yes.
And there's actually scientific data that does so.
Right.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any class?
Nothing else, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hawks. You can approach. We have a question from a juror who's been marked as court's exhibit number 15. Has anyone in your experience ever attempted suicide in an attempt to gain sympathy from being accused?
I think that's almost certainly true. Yes. Especially when the suicide attempt is not successful. Sometimes people do what we call suicidal gestures, which just refers to the fact that it kind of looks like a suicide attempt, but it wasn't fatal. And in many cases, people do that just to garner sympathy or to deflect attention from some other issue that they're concerned about.
Any follow-up? Mr. Draskowitz?
I do, thank you. And in reference to this, and we're not saying that's necessarily the case in this case, are we?
No, I'm not at all.
And this perhaps deflection, this perhaps attempting to get sympathy doesn't necessarily equate to knowledge of guilt or guilt.
No, it definitely does not.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Ms. Whitler, anything else?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Chambers, thank you very much for your testimony here today. You step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You are excused from the subpoena. Thank you very much for being here. You know what,
I'll step outside to see my next.
How much do you think they paid him? Expert witnesses average around $500 to $1,000 an hour. He said he talked to him for 3 hours earlier this year. He met with him again last Saturday for an hour and a half. He also has had to review all of this evidence for why? I'm just really completely unsure why. And now they've had him on the stand. Goodness. That was a lot of thousands of dollars to spend on, well, what they just got. What? So the whole message essentially was that just because he attempted suicide doesn't mean he was guilty. It doesn't mean he was guilty or that he thinks he's guilty. Only, do you think the jury was having that? I thought that question was very interesting. So in case you couldn't hear, I know some of that's kind of quiet. The juror was basically asking, given all of the things that the doctor had said, does he believe that in some instances that somebody may attempt suicide as they're being charged with a crime like this to garner sympathy? And he wholeheartedly agreed with that. He kind of got excited and went on and on. And so then, of course, the defense had to follow up with, but not us, right? Like, not this guy. Not this guy. And he's like, oh, yeah, not sure, not in this case. This guy didn't do any kind of actual research on this case, obviously, and clearly didn't do any kind of evaluation on Robert Tellez. He had nothing to show for that. So good on the prosecution. I thought she did a super good job. But what a waste. Yeah, I agree. I think that helped the state more than it helped the defense. Grant says this witness was from the Dollar Tree. Yeah. Like, obviously, this doctor was paid to do a very specific thing, which was to say the thing that he said. So, he clearly wasn't hired to do anything other than that, or he would have. So it's not really on him as much as it's on the defense that they thought this was going to be helpful. Also, and maybe I'm crazy, but to me, the suicide attempt is fairly insignificant in the case. There is so much evidence that I don't think that the suicide attempt is going to be the thing that convicts Tellez at all. I think it'll be the DNA. And probably some of the electronic stuff too. But this seems like an outrageous waste of money. But what do I know? So in the afternoon, we have, this is a woman. I'm not going to share her name. I am going to share the video, but my intent is not to drag her all over the internet. She seemed very reluctant and frightened and like she really, really didn't want to be here. But essentially, she's a citizen who saw something weird and suspicious in a park. And after she saw pictures of Tellez, she thought she should report that. And now the defense has her on the stand trying to make that into something. And I felt sorry for her because I feel like she, this isn't really where she wanted to be. At one point, she whips out notes and admits that her husband typed them, which wasn't a good look with the prosecution at all. But at any rate, let's listen to what she had to say.
TV that caused you to call the police.
Yes.
Do you recall what the circumstances were and what you saw on TV that caused you to call police?
The description of the person I seen in the park, what they were wearing stood out.
Okay. Now, did you see video on TV concerning a crime in reference to a journalist and you saw clips of that and you said, I recognize that person?
Yes,
If I may turn your attention, and for the record, this is State's Exhibit 338. This is the press release that was released on September 5th, 2022. It's not playing. Can you see that?
yes,
Was that the clip that you had seen on TV?
yes,
And as a result of seeing this clip, did you call the police?
yes,
Then you had testified, get this to stop, that you had seen something that gave rise to concern because you had seen this individual previously.
that's correct.
Where was it that you saw what you believed was this individual?
At Bruce Trent Park?
Bruce Trent Park?
Yes,
That's in Clark County, Nevada.
yes,
Is Bruce Trent Park off of Vegas Drive in Rampart?
that's correct.
When did you see this individual?
It was about 4:30 in the evening.
Okay. And what date do you recall?
It was on the 28th of August.
So that would have been a Sunday
That's correct.
and about 4:30.
Yes,
I'm going to show you what, if we could have marked as defense exhibit Y2. And this will be admitted by stipulation.
Sure.
I'm going to show you, if I could get the Elmo up. Is this right here, Bruce Trent Park? I showed you this prior to your testimony.
yes, you did, yeah.
And that's the park you were at?
That's correct.
Now, is this a Summerlin Park? Is there like a soccer park complex there?
Yes, I believe there's for softball and maybe ice skating, I'm not sure,
Okay.
just other things.
So when you saw this person, it was Sunday, August 28th, 2022, was a warm outside.
Very warm. Again.
And anything catch your attention concerning this individual that you saw?
Yes, yes.
What did you see, please?
I seen somebody that was fully covered from head to toe and wearing black gloves. Yes,
Did this individual have tennis shoes on?
yes,
You have to speak up.
yes, yes,
Did this individual have a straw hat on like the one that we saw in that clip?
yes, sir.
And where did you see this person at this Bruce Trent Park?
I seen him walking across the children's play area
Okay.
and I seen him enter the men's restroom.
If I could have what's going to be marked and admitted by stipulation, defense exhibit.
C2.
C2.
No objection.
Is this the bathroom in this Bruce Trent Park?
Yes, sir.
How long was this person around this bathroom?
He went in and then he went out, came out, and then he went back in.
And you say he, how do you know that it was a male versus a female?
I can tell by the way he walked.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did you interact with this person, speak
No.
to this person?
No, I did not.
Were you concerned regarding the way this person looked in reference to your grandchildren or those that you were with?
Yes, I was very concerned for the children in the park.
Now, you didn't call the police on August 28th, this Sunday, when you saw this person.
No, I did not.
But you called the police after you saw this person again on September 5th for this release. It was a Metro press release concerning a suspect.
Yes, I saw it.
And did you call and give the same description, the same concerns when you called? And let me ask you this, it was on September 7th, wasn't it, that you called?
Yes.
Were you ever interviewed by any detectives or any police officers in reference to this person that you saw?
No.
Did this person also have a bag?
Yes.
Do you recall what type of bag this person had?
A duffel bag.
A duffel bag. Do you recall the color?
It was black.
A black duffel bag.
Yes.
Was this person's face covered
Yes.
with gloves?
With gloves.
Yes, I'm asking you, this person have gloves?
Oh, he had gloves on, but his face was covered with a mask.
Okay.
You know, like a COVID mask.
And you were able on August 28th to get a good look at this person's getup?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
You got a good view of this person?
Yes.
You were close enough. About how far were you? From me to you, farther? What was your vantage point?
Probably where the officer is at the back door.
Okay. Good 30 feet?
Yes.
Thank you.
At one point, I was that far. He was that far from me, but as he went into the men's restroom, I was closer. I could see him a lot closer.
You never spoke to him?
No.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi. Mhm.
Let's, this is Defense Exhibit 22. I think you just said that you, at one point, were about 30, oh,
Sorry, for the record, that's Z2.
ZZ, thank you. I believe you said at one point you were like 30 feet from this individual.
Yes.
And so can you, there's a mouse in front of you. Do you see that on the table?
Okay.
Are you able to kind of indicate where you were and where that person was?
So, if I may ask, is the right side the women's bathroom and the left side is the men's restroom?
So I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to give you
Okay.
answers, but maybe you could just point out where you were?
Okay. I was actually, I'm gonna say it was about kind of like back over here.
Okay, so in the image, sort of the lower right corner in that sand area,
Mhm.
is that yes? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
please.
And the individual was closer, I assume, to the structure?
Yes,
And which side of the structure was the individual on?
on the men's side.
Okay, and whatever side that is?
Yes.
And do you recall now which side that was?
I'm trying to identify the park because I've been to this park several times. And I'm trying to identify what side
Oh,
the
okay.
men's restroom is on. It's not
Okay.
really clear, you know?
Okay, so you can't, I mean,
It's hard to tell.
you've been to that park, but you can't tell by this photo where you were? Or which side, I guess, is the men's side, if I'm understanding you?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's way far over here is the men's side.
Okay, so then to the other side of the picture.
Yes.
And then you're, as I understood you, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were more in the sand area in the lower right part of the picture?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, and so did that distance ever get closer?
Yes, because he walked across the children's playground area to the men's restroom.
Okay, so,
So I
and
seen him from far away, and
Okay.
it concerned me when I first saw him. But then when he walked across the playground to the men's restroom, that concerned me even more.
okay. Now, the person that you saw, you assume male because of how the person walked?
Yes,
How tall was the person?
I'd say about 5'9", 5'8", 5'9".
5'8" or 5'9"? And we said that you believe the person was male. It sounds like the person had gloves on, and then I think I heard you say a face covering as well.
Yes.
So I would assume you don't know what that person's face looks like.
Well, I seen his face when he was running.
Okay,
So
tell me about that.
So when I left the park with my granddaughter, I went around the corner up Durango.
Uh-huh,
Let's see. So there's Rampart, and then there's another side, which is Durango.
okay.
So I went up Durango towards West Cliff, I believe it is.
Mhm.
And I seen him running up, running towards another park that's down the other way. But as he was running, his hat was coming off and his hoodie was coming off, and he didn't have his face mask on, but
Okay,
he looked like a light-skinned male bald.
light-skinned male bald.
Yeah,
And you said there was a hoodie as well?
that's correct.
What color was that hoodie?
I believe it was a dark gray.
Dark gray?
Yeah.
And then the build of the person, would you say heavy build, medium build,
Thin.
thin?
Yeah.
And when you see his face, how far away are you at that point?
Well, I'm driving and he's running on the sidewalk. So
Okay.
I'd say about maybe 30 feet.
Okay, 30 feet.
Maybe less. I don't know.
Was your car actually moving?
Yes, it was moving.
Okay, so you're in kind of a moving car and then you observe him this second
I
time?
was going slow, yes.
Yeah.
Just to see, yeah.
Okay, and the person, as I understand it, caused you concern, but you didn't really see the person do anything except run and kind of walk across the children's playground?
Yes.
Okay, and when you saw the individual in the park, when you weren't in your car, the person had gloves on
Yes,
and then tennis shoes?
correct.
And walked, I guess, looking at this exhibit, is the children's park to the right side?
It's just depending on what street you're on. If you're on Vegas, you're looking at the splash pad and the men's restroom. If you're on Rampart, you're going to be looking at the actual whole playground,
Uh-huh.
and you'll see the side of the women's bathroom.
Okay, and does this exhibit that we have in front of you, does that not give you enough detail to be able to orient on where that playground might be?
No, it doesn't give me enough detail
Okay,
because then it's kind of hard to determine my distance,
sure,
especially because we were at the splash pad at one point,
okay,
and we walked away from the splash pad because of that.
okay. And then when you saw the person near the men's restroom, the individual walked in and walked out?
Yes,
How long was the person in the restroom?
just for a second.
A second?
Walked in, yeah. I'd say maybe like 5 seconds and then walked out.
Okay, and you see all this on August the 28th?
That's correct.
And obviously, nothing about it on August the 28th caused you concern, right? I mean, to call the police, I should say.
It did, but I think I was just trying to process it because I was a little creeped out by it,
Okay,
you know?
and what made you, like, when you say like creeped out on August the 28th?
It didn't look right. Something looked very eerie about the whole thing,
Okay.
especially the way he was moving his hands.
And
That frightened me, and especially because the children there was a lot of kids at the playground that day.
okay, so you were concerned about this person like immediately when you saw him on August the 28th?
Yes,
And then you get in the car with the children that are with you, and then you see him
Okay.
again running?
yes.
What was he doing that caused you concern when he was running?
I don't know. I think it was just seeing him walking the way he did and then seeing him running. It made me think something happened or something was happening. I didn't know. I was more concerned he was going to go to another park. And I don't know. I was just scared for the kids. That's all.
You were scared for the kids. Did you ever see him interact with a kid?
No, nothing. At all.
And when you say like you were concerned about the way he was walking, what about that caused you concern?
Something just didn't look right about it.
Okay. And was it like because the person was walking fast or slow
Well,
or?
first of all, he was completely covered with gloves on in the heat that way.
Mhm,
He didn't look like a homeless man.
sure.
So that's what caught my
clothing.
attention. It caught my attention, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so were you, based on what you saw on August the 28th, did you think about calling the police and reporting this person?
No, it didn't dawn on me just yet what was going on. I kind of like just let it be. I know I wasn't really thinking something was going to happen, you know.
Okay. And so
Mhm.
it's sometime after that that you see the public information video sent out by Metro?
Yes.
Do you remember what date you saw that?
I believe it was the 7th.
The 7th of September?
I believe so.
Okay, so What do you have up there?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was just my notes of the date,
Oh,
of the date.
may I
I'm
have
sorry.
a copy of those, please, Your Honor?
Sure, if you want to both of you go over and look, grasp it, you want to
Thank you.
different amounts as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Can I just take these up while I'm doing cross, and then I'll give them back to
No
you?
worries. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
So these notes that you gave me on this piece of paper, did you type these?
Actually, my husband did.
Okay.
But
It was sort of based on what you're
it
saying?
was based on the police report that I made. Yes, based on the police report that I made.
Okay,
Yeah.
so at some point, it looks like on your notes, it says Wednesday, 9/7 at 7:43 PM.
Okay.
Is that the date you
That's
called the
date.
police?
Yes.
Okay, and so you reported, you saw something on TV and then you make the report after that?
Yes.
Okay, and then did your husband just write these in order for you to keep your memory to sort of, I
Just
guess?
to help me because it was 2022, so
Yeah,
it was a little foggy from that point,
Okay.
yeah.
and then, so did you kind of, it seems like you explained exactly what you just testified to
Yes.
this afternoon?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and then after you made your report of the sighting to the police, it's my understanding that you weren't talked to?
No.
Okay, and did you ever make like any kind of follow-up call?
No.
Did you ever see this person in the area of that park again?
No. I hadn't gone back to that park for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not just at the park, but anywhere? Had you ever seen the person
Never.
again?
No.
Never? Okay, so the one time you see this person is on August the 28th?
That's correct.
And how long total time do you think you had to observe the person?
About 30 minutes.
Okay, so
Possibly.
quite a bit of time.
In between that time, yeah. It was in between that time of 30 minutes. Because I had to have my granddaughter home at 5.
Okay,
So we were kind of rushing, trying to play and get her home.
yeah.
So
Did you think because of the outfit, the person might have been a worker or groundskeeper, or
it did not look like that at all.
because the outfit looked different than that to you, or?
He looked very peculiar. I don't know.
Peculiar?
Yeah,
Okay.
just
Was there reflection
Something didn't
on
seem
the
right.
clothing? Was the clothing reflective?
no.
There was no reflective
No.
clothing on at all? Okay. And then just sort of the hat that you described?
Yes, and something just didn't seem right because that hoodie was very tight on his face.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's a hoodie and then a hat on top of that?
Yes,
Okay. And that hoodie, I think you described as sort of darker color?
yes,
And then you see that when he's running and the hat comes up a little bit?
yeah.
Okay,
It was coming off.
okay.
Yes, he was running.
Just 1 second, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Your Honor, may I approach? I'd like to return her notes to her.
Sure, you want to mark it, make it for the record?
If that's okay with the witness and counsel, that's fine.
Do you mind if we mark it, make it for the record, or do you want a copy of it?
I don't mind.
Okay, so just court's exhibit. that
Yeah.
can be, court's exhibit.
May I
That's fine.
approach?
You may.
It's going to be court exhibit number 16.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Drexler?
Thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions. Thank you for your
Am I
testimony.
Thank you
good?
very much
Thank
for your, just make sure. Thank you very much for your testimony here today. You may step down. And you'll excuse me, your subpoena. Thank you very
Thank you.
much for being here.
Okay. So, what do you think? This was 5 days before the crime. I don't know how close the park is to the crime scene. I don't think it's terribly close. But it's in the general neighborhood, maybe. Obviously, it was weird, It was weird. He walked right through kids and didn't have a kid with him. He was dressed super, super warm for Las Vegas in August. It was probably really, really hot. So it was weird. It was weird. And, like someone else in the chat pointed out, we always say, if you see something, say something. So definitely, right? Uh, she didn't, unfortunately, in the moment, and I understand that. I think we've all seen stuff that we thought was weird, but maybe didn't. We didn't know if it would justify a call to the police. When she saw those, the pictures and video come out, she went, "Okay, well, I saw a weirdo in a hat, so, here you go." He also had on tennis shoes. He was also carrying a duffel bag. There are some similarities, right? Definitely not all, but I found it weird. And I want to make sure that this is clear. No shade to her at all. She did the right thing. She called. She saw something. She said something. Absolutely. I don't. I don't know if I understand why the defense called her. I know they're trying to create some reasonable doubt that it could have been somebody else, of course. I just don't know what to think. I'm curious to know what you guys think in the chat. Was it worth this? Do you think that that's something that this testimony is something that would plant reasonable doubt for the jury? What do we think? Let's see. And I did. So here's the picture. This person has on what looks to me like dark blue jeans, tennies, black gloves. He also had on black gloves. Uh, the biggest aside is probably the reflective jacket because she said this guy had on a dark hoodie. And also, the perp did have something covering their face. So there was definitely some similarities there. Is it weird to you that she said that when she saw him running down the road, that the hoodie and the hat were kind of coming off and he was a white guy with a bald head? Who else? Who else has that? That part made me go, Robert Tellis, were you out there? Like, what? Was this a practice run? Was this actually him? Or was this someone else completely just some weird dude? My other thought still, and I still am kind of with the prosecution on this. Are we sure this wasn't a groundskeeper? Are we sure this wasn't somebody that was doing landscaping that was just going to the bathroom? We're not sure of anything. We're not sure of anything, right? Yeah. And yes, as we understand, a lot of people that flag, work in construction, work in landscaping, things like that, wear that kind of a hat, kind of wear that same kind of a getup to protect themselves from the heat. So, good question. Did they check where Tellis was that day or his car phone pings? No idea. Dixie said, could she have been put up to this? It's very strange. It must have been scary to testify. It's a bit weird all around, though. I wondered that too, Dixie. I kind of think no. She acted to me like she really didn't want to be there and was pretty uncomfortable. See, I wondered about that too, Erin. Could it be someone who actually cleans the restrooms at the park or stocks the restrooms at the park that was checking on them? I think this could have been a lot of things. Yeah. Teresa said there are groundspeople in Boise that have yellow hoodies on in 80-degree plus weather while they mow with the hoodies pulled up. Sure. I mean, you could certainly be wearing something like that to protect yourself from the sun. Yeah, or someone that takes out the trash. I really wondered that too, if this was literally somebody that works for the city that was just trying to maintenance that bathroom. But then seeing him running down the road is kind of weird. Was it weird that the defense never brought that up? The running down the road part? She only said that to the prosecution? Aaron said it was 115 in September in Vegas when Jeff was killed. So it was probably somewhere around that when this guy was seen. I don't know. I thought that was very strange testimony. I don't personally think that would have caused much doubt for the jurors, mostly because this was 5 days before the crime was committed. And also because the outfits really don't match. Yeah, when she pulls out those notes, could you believe how shocked the prosecutor was? They're not supposed to do that. She was supposed to just be up there speaking from memory like everyone else has to. I don't think anyone realized that she had a pile of notes in front of her. And I'm sure she didn't know, you know. I mean, this isn't, I am sure when she made that call, she had no idea she'd end up here, you know. So again, no shade to her whatsoever. I think she did as well as she could under the circumstances. That just, that was hard. That was hard. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I doubt that that creates any kind of reasonable doubt with the jury, simply because I, it wasn't. They didn't make any big statement about how close this was to the crime scene. Which, and again, I don't know how far that park is from the crime scene, but in my opinion, if it was very close to the crime scene, the defense would have made a huge point of that, right? They would have had a map out there. They would have had it drawn out. They would have showed exactly how far it was by walking, by driving to get to Jeff German's property. They did not do that, which tells me that it's probably a ways away. Uh, that's a good question, Aaron. I mean, how many people did call the police who actually did see Tellis? And it's also a good question. Did anybody else call the police the day that that weird guy was creeping around and report him then? Yeah, she did good. She did as well as she could. I think, you know, we're talking about something that she saw very briefly 2 years ago, and she did the best she could to, recall it. I'm just I'm not sure why they called her, except for, you know, again, I know they're trying to create reasonable doubt. I just thought that, I wish she hadn't had to get on the stand, but she did do good. She did the best she could, and she clearly, was uncomfy. I think we all would be. The thing about it is you still got to say something if you see something, even if you end up in an uncomfortable situation like this, right? And the thing about it is you might see something that creeps you out. I mean, she was operating more on vibes than anything, don't you think? You know, she, a lot of things the prosecution asked, she was kind of like, he was peculiar. I just felt weird. It just seemed weird. That's the reason you call. That's the reason you call, without a doubt. And she did, you know, she didn't at the time, clearly, but when she saw the thing, she did her duty, just like the realtors did when they saw it, right? And they went, we know who this person is. So I think she did the best she could. And even though you may find yourself in a uncomfortable sitch, you still got to call if you see something, without a doubt. So we don't know how many more witnesses are left. There could be as many as they had 20 on their witness list, so as many as 18. But the bigger bombshell came at the end of the day when the judge did finally ask the defense if we are going to see Mr. Tellis on the stand, because she needs to be sure that he understands what his rights are concerning testifying. And they said yes, that we'll likely see Robert Tellis on the stand tomorrow. So that to me, I think is going to be really interesting. Uh, as you know, he's terribly interesting interested to tell his story. You know, how many times have we heard that? So he really wants to tell his story. So let's hear it. I can't wait to hear this. I can't wait to see how he responds. I really hope that the state keeps the female prosecutor on him. I would really like to see how he responds when she challenges him. Uh, I want to see what his demeanor is. How he is he able to maintain? His impulse control seems to be low. We know that there were some allegations of sexual assault when he was in college. We know that there were some fairly recent allegations of domestic violence against his wife that were then dropped. Uh, we know that he sits in court with all of these weird expressions on his face all the time. We know that he was called by the people that worked for him as a tyrant, as explosive, as frightening, as a lot of things. So I'm really curious to see him on the stand. He'll be a jovial, good old boy, I'm sure, when the defense has him on the stand, but I'm really curious to see how he reacts to cross when he gets challenged on some things. So, right. What's going to come out of him? Yeah, he's going to creep us out tomorrow, without a doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he does not have respect for women. Definitely, Tom. Absolutely. He does have a threatening look. I agree, Aaron. So it'll be curious for all of us, I think, to see. Also, great news. Christy is all done at urgent care. She did have a black, they weren't sure what it was, some speck of something that was up in her upper eyelid, wedged way up there where she couldn't get to it. So they numbed her eye and wiped it out. So it's out, and she had some scratches on her eyeball. So she had to go on an antibiotic to make sure she doesn't have any trouble, but it's out. So she's got, you know, major relief now. So thank goodness for that. And thanks to you guys at all urgent care for taking care of that, because that's scary. And if you've ever had something stuck in your eye like that, man, it feels like an emergency. And it is. It is. But you know much that how much that hurts. Yeah. Count how many eye rolls and eyebrows moving, right? Oh my gosh. We can't make it a drinking game or nobody would come out alive. Yeah. Yeah, me too. Dang it, that sucks, but I'm glad it's over. So she's headed back home now and says she feels a million times better. So good news. Well, that's what we've got. So court again is at 11:30 tomorrow Mountain Time, 10:30 Pacific. So same start time as we've had so far this week, and we'll see. Is the defense going to manage to cobble together some people tomorrow? Sounds like Tellis might be one of them. Who else? Any chance that the defense rests tomorrow? I don't really think they'll put all 20 of their witnesses on the stand, but I know they said that they had somebody that was flying in that wasn't going to get there until late this evening, that wouldn't be able to testify until tomorrow morning. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be an actual full day of court. We'll find out. The other thing is, I wanted to remind you, if you are a part of our subscription on YouTube, the watch party is tomorrow night. So we're watching the Lacey Peterson story, the American Murder, Lacey Peterson documentary. We're watching episode 1. So, of course, if you have done the watch party before, or if you haven't, if you're a part of our subscription on YouTube, and honestly, if you're trying to join it, just go to a desktop. They make it so hard to find on your devices that I don't even know why they bother. YouTube, for as much traffic as YouTube has, sometimes their app is really lacking, but their tech is sometimes lacking. So hopefully that gets better over time. But at any rate, you can find that right on our homepage on YouTube, and it's just you can just join and join at any level. We're also struggling with YouTube. They're old descriptions, so if it doesn't seem to make sense, just join it. We're just doing the watch party, so join it either way, and then you'll be able to attend. So you stream it on your own device per normal, and then we just have a chat just like this opened up where you can come and chat with us and watch the show together. So you're watching it on your device and we're watching it on ours, and it's a lot of fun. So that'll be at 7:45 tomorrow night. So we're going to just stick with 6:30 all the way through this trial. So tomorrow night, case updates and updates from the Tellis trial tomorrow at 6:30, and then the watch party at 7:45. So that's what's up. So thank you so very much. We'll be back shortly, or well, we won't. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for being here, you guys. Thanks for being on this ride with us. Thanks for being a part of the squad. And we'll see you tomorrow. So take good care of yourselves, please. Everybody gets a cookie. This has been yet another production of the True Crime Squad. Take care.